Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Kate Shadlock and Johnny Mac Yates. Kate and Johnny Mac are second-year students in our full-time MBA class of 2022, and they were also chairs of the tutoring program here at the Darden School of Business. If you're wondering about support for students as they navigate the first year, this episode is essential listening. Of course, the tutoring program is just one of many resources available to first-year students, but nevertheless, it's a great conversation with two second years who have really a great insight on first-year students as they navigate the core curriculum experience and beyond. So without further ado, here's my interview with Kate Shadlock and Johnny Mac Yates. Kate, Johnny Mac, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Brett. It's great to be here.
Excited to be here, Brett.
It's great to have you here. Greetings from Roslyn. I'm based out of Sam's Family Grounds. The two of you in Charlottesville, I assume. Yes? Yes?
A beautiful day here in Charlottesville.
Excellent. Equally sunny skies here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. You're fresh off of spring break. How was spring break? Kate, can I come to you first? Did you have a nice break?
Definitely. I was very excited to participate in a DWC in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We did a comprehensive course on the Battle of Gettysburg and the leadership lessons from the Civil War. It was really a wonderful trip, and I very much enjoyed it.
Had you ever been there before? Sometimes people have been there on like a school trip or a history tour or something like that.
No, I hadn't been there before, actually. I had been familiar with the Battle of Gettysburg from undergraduate studies and from reading, and certainly the Ken Burns documentary series, but I never had the opportunity to really go there and learn from a business and leadership perspective. I thought it was amazing, the lessons that you could really take away from generals and from the colonels and commanders on both sides, looking at just everything that we can learn from that experience was very sobering and very enlightening.
All right, Johnny Mac, were you also on a trip this past week?
No, it was a little less academic for me. I'm a JD MBA student, so the spring breaks don't totally line up. So unfortunately, I couldn't do one of those great Darden Worldwide courses, but I did slip out to Salt Lake City to do some skiing for a little bit, and then did a fair number of house projects in Richmond. So once again, getting to Charlottesville's great accessibility for whatever you need to get done.
All right. Well, excellent. At least you got a little skiing in. I was trying to imagine if the schedules don't perfectly line up, does that mean you never get spring break? But it sounds like you still managed to get a break in there. So good. Are y'all NCAA tournament people? Are your brackets still okay? Or maybe you've just opted out of that entirely. It's all business school or business school and law school all the time now?
Definitely full on focused on the illustrious NIT tournament this go round with the Who's not making the tourney this year. But planning to go over to JPJ this afternoon and catch the Who's, hopefully pick up an NIT win. All
right. How about you, Kate? Have you been?
I have not been following that. No, my total athletic viewership involvement has revolved mostly around the UVA women's softball team. They just had a great win. My roommate is the starting pitcher on the team, so I think I'll also be heading over towards JPJ in the softball arena later to go cheer her on.
Yeah, just steps away from the Darden grounds, both JPJ and the softball stadium. Also Klockner Stadium, where you can see soccer and lacrosse and the baseball fields, and a track is not too far away. Like all of the athletics, basically, with the exception of football, which is also within walking distance from Darden grounds. So, well, thank you both for doing this. Before we get into really kind of the reason, the occasion for your invitation here to talk about the tutoring program here at the Darden School of Business, I wanted to learn a little bit more about you. We've started to put some things together here over this initial introduction. But Kate, can we start with you first? Tell us a little bit more about your background before coming to Darden.
Absolutely. So I'm Kate. I'm originally from upstate New York, around the Albany area. I earned a scholarship to Johns Hopkins, where I graduated with an honors degree in economics, as well as some work in econometrics and foreign languages. After I graduated from Johns Hopkins, I went on to pursue a career in private equity in Washington, D.C. I had a great experience. I really loved it, but I knew that I wanted to take my education to the next level. And I was actually out for a run one day in Georgetown, and I saw the UVA Darden sign across the Potomac. And I thought to myself, Darden, what is that? I want to learn more about that. And that was how I came to know about Darden. And from there, I was lucky enough to earn a spot at Darden. I've been very happy to be graduating in just a few weeks now. I can't believe how fast it's flown by.
I walk into work every day and I live in DC. And if you plan the walk right, you can see the Darden sign from a few places in Georgetown and also as you're coming across the Key Bridge. But you can definitely see it from the Georgetown waterfront. And also note the porch of the Kennedy Center. Some good vantage points there for those of you in the DC area. Thank you, Kate, for sharing a little bit more about your story. Johnny Mac, same question for you. Tell us more about you. What did you do before coming to Darden?
Yes, I'm from Richmond originally and have actually never strayed too far. I went to William and Mary for undergrad, where I studied finance and government. And then headed back to Virginia after a brief stint of skiing out in Colorado, and worked for Dominion Energy, where I did mergers and acquisitions. And I really loved the company and the job, and just the excitement of doing important energy deals. But I kind of looked around in the room and saw that a lot of the folks I admired hailed from UVA and had either law or business MBA degrees. So after saying I was never going back to school after undergrad, lo and behold, I ended up with 4 years in Charlottesville. So I started first as over at the law school, and then found myself really enjoying Charlottesville and the academic environment so much that I added on the MBA as well, and have really been happy with the decision. Darden adds a different perspective, both in the classroom and socially. That's been a lot of fun.
So your whole academic life over the past few years has played out on North grounds. For those of our listeners who don't know the topography of the UVA grounds, the law school and the business school are right next to each other, only separated by the Darden Inn, which is in the midst of construction. It's gone vertical. It's coming together. It should be done by graduation in about a year or so, best I can tell from everything that's being reported out. So come back and see it, I guess, or check it out for the first time for our listeners who are less familiar with the Charlottesville area. All right. So Johnny Mac, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that sort of decision to apply to the MBA program after you had started at the law school, because we may have listeners that are in the same place, kind of thinking about a JD and the decision to add on an MBA. Now, walk us through that decision.
Yeah, certainly. So I initially had thought about just doing an MBA, but really boiled down to law school is something that's difficult to pick up on the job, that kind of legal thinking. So that's kind of why I headed down the law route first. But kind of once I was in Charlottesville and was kind of fully immersed in the culture, I got to meet quite a few Darden students that were really impressive and, stressed the importance of Darden, not just from the networking and the social and fun aspect of Darden, but also the fact that they felt like the academic experience had really broadened their horizons beyond what they picked up on the job. So, even having a finance background and feeling pretty comfortable with, accounting, finance, kind of the undergrad business side of things, just tackling those concepts through the case method really has added a much more fundamental understanding that I think sometimes you don't always expect from the stereotype of business school, at least the way law students talk about business school. So really that mix of, yes, of course, the networking and the social aspects of it, but but also, realizing, the potential to really learn a lot, kind of shifted me toward adding on the MBA.
So you've had case method classes in law school and you've had case method classes in business school. How have they been similar? How have they been different?
Yeah, so in law school, it's certainly different because there's an answer to the case. The judge has spoken and there's a holding, and you can, we spend a lot of time analyzing whether that's right and picking holes in it. Whereas Darden cases are a lot more open-ended, and I like having both perspectives for sure. I think sometimes the Darden perspective can be a little bit more freeing, and the conversation can go in different directions. And I think there's, on the Darden side of things, there's a lot more trying to get at like the fundamental issues, that come up in a case. Whereas law school sometimes, already having the framework laid out, in an opinion, you get a little bit more into the details. So I'd say Darden cases I really appreciate have given me an opportunity to kind of get at bigger problems and distill more facts than law cases.
Well, I appreciate that springing question, but we don't always have JD MBAs here on the podcast. And when people think of law school, they think about case method instruction. And I say this as somebody who went to law school and have sat in on some Darden classes. The classrooms feel very, very different in terms of how students engage with each other. So thank you, Johnny Mac. Kate, I want to come to you. Same kind of question. You mentioned sort of being out, running, exercising, seeing the Darden side, wanting to learn more about Darden, but had you thought about an MBA for a while? Was it something that was always on your radar?
I had not, actually. I had not been planning on going to business school or attending an MBA program. For me, it was less a question of, do I want to go to business school versus can I find the right fit at a business school? Can I find a place that really will give me the skill set training that I was looking for? And for me, what really stood out about Darden was that it puts you in the decision-making perspective. You are in the driver's seat with every class that you have, be it from accounting to finance to strategy to operations management. You are the key decision maker. And what really stood out for me was all of the varieties of business decisions that you'll have to analyze. We have cases on Amazon, cases on Tesla, cases on government entities. We even have a case on the Challenger space shuttle incident in talking about leadership lessons from there and data management and responsibility. The variety of cases and the variety of scenarios in which we were challenged to come up with good business solutions and really outstanding management decisions, that sort of experience, I can only imagine, might take 10, 12 years to cultivate in the natural progression of being in a career versus concentrating it in just the 2 years that we have at Darden. Getting that breadth and that depth in every single one of your classes was, to me, just such an exciting opportunity and really would give me the flight hours necessary to lead and operate in an even more successful career. So I was very excited about that learning potential. And I was very excited also, just something else that really stood out to me was the opportunity not just to learn alongside your peers, being in class and having the case method, having heavy classroom interaction engagement, but also learning from your peers too. Because of that discussion heavy nature of it, I feel that I have learned so much from my peers and from my classmates, both in the classroom as well as just around grounds as well. So between those factors, it just seemed like a great fit for me. And I'm very happy to say it has lived up to and exceeded those expectations.
So Kate, I'm going to stay with you for this next question, and then I want to get Johnny Mac's perspective as well. But you come to Darden, you're a brand new business school student, first year Darden student. What was that learning curve like? What was that process of adjusting to graduate business education like?
It was very different, I think, for Johnny Mac and I, perhaps in a different way than other students, because we started during COVID. Our education was entirely remote. Every informal opportunity for socialization was mostly over Zoom and over Teams chats. And I think for me, the adjustment process it felt very natural coming from a business perspective, the familiarity with the format. And in those aspects were not so much of a surprise, but what was different was really being challenged to come up with these business decisions and being able to render and articulate a best course of action or suggestion, a plan for any one of these corporate scenarios. That was empowering and exciting, but my goodness, that was a lot to contemplate, a lot to think about. I loved every minute of it, but it was definitely a process in being able to examine the minute, being able to balance that with the macro, thinking about different stakeholders, considering alternative perspectives. It was very much a growth process, learning to switch between all of those perspectives. And I know that I'm a better manager for it.
It sounds like that process is something you got better at over the course of the year, from where you started to maybe by the end of your first year, something that you kind of could very naturally do.
I've very much appreciated the growth that has accompanied that. Yes, I think it's really just been wonderful.
So Johnny Mac, when you came to Darden, you had what, already 1 year of law school behind you, or how did the timing work out?
Yes, I did 2 years of law school, and then a year of business school, and then the last year together.
Okay, so you'd already done some graduate education. So you come to Darden. What was your first year at Darden like?
Yeah, so I, in addition to COVID, kind of had the extra difference of being in the January start section. So things were a little bit more accelerated even than normal for Darden, and it was pretty exciting as a result of that. I think every section gets this, but the closeness of a section, and particularly the closeness of a learning team, I think really develops so quickly when you are kind of thrown into that first week of class, and you need to rely on each other's strengths to kind of manage the number of cases and the number of different skill sets needed to really participate in class. So I think, in some ways the difficulties added by COVID or the compressed schedule kind of was a boon, in that we really got to lean on each other as classmates much more quickly, and kind of have never been in an environment where things got to be, of course the classroom is still relatively formal, but things, boundaries just kind of broke down so quickly that, really was a great environment to build a team in.
Well, I appreciate everything that y'all have shared. And I think the thing that we always try to remind prospective students, that where you start as a first year student is certainly not where you're going to end. And these skill developments, getting familiar with your classmates, the relationships that you're going to develop. Johnny Mac, to your point, that section solidarity, we've had some other January section folks. It's a one-time section that was offered really for folks because of COVID and everything going on. We had some students that had their MBA plans pretty significantly disrupted and needed a bit more flexibility, and it's been great. I mean, so Section J, I guess, is what it was in great Darden fashion. You have A, B, C, D, E, and then also Section J. It was great to hear the solidarity within that section. So, what did y'all do in the summer after your first year, Johnny Mac? How did you spend that summer? Did you do a law job? Did you do more of an MBA type job?
I did. I did law jobs kind of throughout, and for me, that really just boiled down to knowing that I wanted to be an attorney directly after school. But I do think that's one of the joys of having it as a 4-year program, is that you can take, particularly early on, for dual degrees who kind of structure it differently and start on the Darden side. I would advise to take an early opportunity to do a business internship, and really think of each summer as an asset to explore something different. For me, this past summer, sticking with law made sense, because that kind of transitions to your full-time formal employment. But definitely don't have to go down that route, and I'd even advise to spend a little time early on for some exploration to do something different.
Good advice. Kate, how about you? What did you do in the summer after your first year?
Strongly second what Johnny Mac said. I think that it's a wonderful time to get a sampling palette and to really think about both what you are good at and also what you really enjoy pursuing. I mean, it's a quest that continues long after Darden, but it is a wonderful place to start it here. For me, I spent the summer with BlackRock out in their San Francisco office. I had a wonderful experience there.
I appreciate the point about exploration, because when we talk with prospective students, oftentimes they're really focused on that internship as the thing that will lead to the full-time offer. And when I talk with current students, that's sometimes part of the story, but also people do a lot of recruiting in their second year. And the thing that students have really emphasized is that it's not 9 months of recruiting. It's you really have the full 2 years in the program to kind of explore and see what's out there. The summer internship, of course, is an opportunity to try something, to test drive a possibility for you as a post MBA role, but doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that you do. Kate, that sounds like advice that you would support as well.
Yes, absolutely would recommend that. I entered Darden with plans of continuing in private equity. I had had such a great experience in the industry, and now I've had the opportunity to really sample from different areas like consulting, looking at careers in tech. I was even for one point very interested in space technologies. I'm still looking at that as a potential career option after graduation. And I think that you learn so much about yourself by by looking into all of these different career options. And it really frames out so well what we have in the education. I think that it's really a positive attribute of the program.
One of the storylines that we really highlight when it comes to talking about the second year is that students control their time a bit more in the second year, right? You're not going through the core. You have more say in your schedule, what classes that you're taking, and you're also perhaps choosing some extracurricular organizations or activities to be involved with from a leadership standpoint. And mentioned the reason for inviting the two of you on the podcast was to talk more about the tutoring program. So Johnny Mac, if you wouldn't mind getting us started here, for some of our listeners, this may be the first time that they're hearing about this program. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is and how it supports students?
Yeah, certainly. So it's basically a peer resource available for first year students to connect with second year students to get some assistance on the core curriculum. So it's largely student driven, which I think is what a lot of the kind of the strength of the Darden extracurriculars are, is that these second year students are excited to get out there and share what they learned and kind of also provide a little empathy of having gone through it and really understanding from a student perspective what were the pain points, what were the kind of aha moments, and imparting that to first year. So just formally, we have twice a week tutoring in all the core subjects. And we also occasionally offer some one-on-one tutoring for students who need additional help. But it's really a student-driven program where, the second years provide some organization, but the first years also drive a lot of it in terms of their questions. So great opportunity for first years and second years to connect and for first years to kind of, dive in on some things that might not have been clear in the classroom.
One of the things that is very impressive to me as someone who's kind of a little bit on the periphery of the student experience is just how much ownership students have over what takes place at Darden. And it's consistent with what you just shared, Johnny Mac, right? This is second years helping first years. You hear this like on the career end of things with career coaches, the second year coaches that are working and supporting first year students, in addition to the career development team at Darden. And just students play such a significant role in shaping the community. Kate, what attracted you to this particular opportunity? How'd you say, this is one of the things that I want to spend my time on in my second year?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, it was thinking back on my first year experience and thinking back on the second years who helped me then. There's a tremendous breadth of content that we go over, as I mentioned earlier, in every one of our courses, from finance, accounting, strategy, you name it. And I felt that the linkage between first and second year was not only academic, but also mentoring. It was being able to go to a second year and say, well, I had a question about this. I wasn't quite sure how we arrived at this calculation, and then being able to offer the insight to say, oh, it's this. Here, let me help you understand. And by the way, here's how I saw it applied in my summer internship, or here's how I saw it applied in my professional experience. Having those opportunities was really key, and it made such a difference for me in my decision to apply to be a tutor chair.
And Johnny Mac, similar kind of rationale for you. What led you to say, this is something I want to do?
Yes, I think I didn't. I don't think I attended tutoring as a first year, but I kind of saw the value of, even just in the learning team environment, of Darden students pitching in to help each other, and really kind of the collegiality of the school is one thing that makes it special. And the tutoring program is just, kind of the epitomization of that. Of, you've got the second years pitching in to help, and then you've also got, we do it in a group setting. So, part of the value comes from having, first years together, asking questions and kind of building on each other's understanding with the second year tutor guiding them. So really kind of just was part of that collaboration that makes Darden special and a fun place to be.
I appreciate your highlighting that, how students support each other, even in these tutoring sessions beyond just second years helping first years, how first years are actually, they're asking questions. Maybe someone's a little bit further along with a concept than somebody else. One of the things that also struck me when I saw the thank you note to all the second year tutors, and obviously the tutor chairs, the two of you, is just how many tutors there are. There's a lot of people. I mean, this is a pretty large organization. Kate, do you have like a rough number in your head, or do you happen to know like all the people? I mean, seem like a lot of people involved in this program.
Yes, well, we have a lot of tutors on call specifically for the reason that we have so many classes. In quarter one, we might have a tutor who is more focused on finance. In quarter four, we might have somebody come in for a more advanced course like valuations. And we really just wanted to make sure that should any student ever show up with a question, a comment, or any group of students, we want to make sure that we can support them as best as we can. And given the diversity of courses that we have at Darden, it made more sense to have a larger number of tutors on call and at hand to meet those questions.
That makes sense. And obviously, Darden being a general management program, you have this core curriculum that's very broad. It's everything from accounting and finance to business ethics, leading organizations. And of course, in quarter four, there's some electives too that students can take. And so I'm not surprised to hear the kind of focus on coverage. Johnny Mac, how do you figure out who's going to serve as a tutor? Is there any criteria the tutors themselves have to meet?
Yeah, so traditionally we've leaned really heavily on professor recommendations. So, we seek out, professors for all the core classes to nominate students. And we kind of ask the professors to identify both, students who were at the top of the class and really had strong fundamental understanding, but, also, and almost more importantly, students who were very clear in class and were able to, break down complex topics in a way that everybody was able to understand in class. And then, so that, kind of professor nominations based on that criteria is kind of our main focus. But then this past year, we also opened it up to student recommendations. That's been particularly important for us. And, one of our big focuses is having a wide diversity of tutors, just to fit the different learning styles of Darden students. Really making sure that we had student input in the nomination process was valuable. And I think a good add this year.
I appreciate your highlighting that. One of the things that's interesting to me is how the tutors might work with the faculty, or whether there's like any kind of connection there. Kate, do they connect with the faculty to kind of understand like what's going on in class, or things that the faculty is noticing that students are having a hard time with? Is there any linkage there?
We do offer some connection with there. We approach that on mostly a case-by-case basis to best fit the needs of whatever the incoming tutees may be needing.
All right. All right. So what has it been like for you, Kate, being in this tutor chair role? Obviously, you came to this with real intentionality. It was something that you wanted to be involved with to give back. And what has this past year been like for you?
It's really been wonderful. I have been so happy to see that we've been able to expand the tutoring program into some of those second year and first year electives like valuations, for example. And in addition to really giving back, something that was just so important for Johnny and I to work on over the course of this past year was building up that understanding first, building understanding from there, building confidence, and really inspiring students to mastery for these subjects. It is a wonderful opportunity to be here and to really foster some genuine enthusiasm and excitement about all of these classes is a great thing. And I think we've done that very well over the past year. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, but that's really our goal. We are here to educate and we're here to help and support students however we best can, but we're also really here to inspire.
So Johnny Mac, I'm thinking about what Kate just shared, understanding to confidence. That can be a real leap for some students who may not be even kind of getting a particular concept and may, be a little bit intimidated by the curriculum. I think about all the folks who may not necessarily have math in their background. They've come to business school. You're having to take finance. You're having to take decision analysis, any of these classes that have more of this quantitative aspect to them. What's it like to work with a student who's kind of in that, I'm not sure I really get this, and watch them go to a place where maybe they're confident about the material?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's cool when you kind of see the light go off. And it's, we do stick to, a little bit of a case method approach, but we also kind of have the flexibility to get into Excel together and, throw out, examples and really kind of put a practical point on it that sometimes can be hard in the full classroom discussion setting. So I think sometimes just running through an example together and letting the student kind of drive the math and tweak it as you go, I think is really kind of where tutoring adds something that's not in the classroom, kind of being able to show the tutor what you're trying to do and then get advice on, a more efficient or potentially correct way to do something, I think is a nice addition from the tutoring program.
Kate, how do you get the examples that Johnny Mac is referring to, or the practice problems? Where do they come from? Do you have just these tutoring materials? The faculty suggest them? Are they things that students have worked on for class and maybe got hung up on? Where do the materials come from?
We use mostly class-based materials. We work on our cases. We keep an active record of all the cases that are taught in each class. The tutors review them before showing up to tutoring, go through the points of the case, and really prepare themselves to tutor in a case method fashion. So it's mostly course materials, and sometimes I like to bring in real world examples. I also work as a GEM or economics tutor in the program, and I always like finding ways that I can tie it into current events, or if I can tie it into some sort of real world example. I feel that, and I have seen in students that really helps their comprehension to get from the I understand to, oh, I get it. I am excited about this. I'm confident, and I can't wait to go to class tomorrow and talk about it.
One of the things that there's some YouTube videos and different things out there, but it comes up time and again when faculty talk about teaching in the case method is how much preparation they have to do to be ready for those conversations in class. As a tutor, how do you get ready for these sessions? Kate, can I start with you? Like, what is do you have preparation that you have to do? Do you walk in there with like a lesson plan? What does that look like for you?
Yes, I try to walk in most times with a lesson plan. Without a lesson plan, I will also go back to my notes if it's a new case or something that's just being tried out for the first time. I like to go through and remind myself of what were the questions that I was thinking about when I went through this the first time, what were my curiosities? What were my points of, I need to think about this more? And being able to reflect on those things, approaching the tutoring sessions, I've found has made a tremendous difference, in addition to what I said about maybe approaching it from different angles and looking at it from different perspectives. Yeah, seems to be a very helpful strategy.
Johnny Mac, any preparation that you do for these sessions? Anything that you find helpful?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going back to my notes from last year. And, you never know exactly what direction a tutoring session is going to go in. But I think the biggest thing is kind of, those 3 or 4 main takeaways from each case, having those at the top of mind, and then ensuring that you kind of are driving to those takeaways in tutoring, and then, having the flexibility to go with, whatever technical, more math questions that are going on. The other thing too, I like to think about that I think a lot of tutors do is, particularly in finance or accounting, putting these concepts into real terms. So, with finance, a lot of it's like, let's analogize to like thinking of this company as like a house. So trying to, come up with kind of different ways of, discussing a topic that maybe didn't happen in the classroom, I think is valuable.
So you've obviously gone through the first year experience as students, and now as tutors and tutor chairs, you've supported first year students who are navigating the curriculum. I wonder how this experience, Johnny Mac, has given you a deeper appreciation or a different perspective on the first year. Like, how is your experience here as a second year tutor impacted your view on the Darden first year?
I think I already had a lot of respect for our professors, but it's definitely added to that, teaching, fundamental business concepts. Once you feel like you've got a hold of the concepts, you look back and say like, oh, we should get that quickly. But trying to bring that out in the case method is really rewarding once it works out, but it definitely takes a lot of thought and focus. So yeah, certainly more appreciation for our teachers. And then also, one aspect that I hadn't thought about this job was I really love the tutoring part of it and the teaching part of it and working with students. But the other aspect of it is kind of a logistics on coordinating this tutoring program. And what we did in like our operations class, and also some of like the organizational behavior classes, or LO class, I guess we call them at Darden. Those kind of came to fruition in running the program more than I thought. So, thinking about how to queue up tutors the best way, and how to incentivize preparation and make sure everybody's excited. It was kind of funny to see stuff we were learning in class actually go into running the day-to-day of the logistics for getting tutors to work as best as possible with first years.
I can believe that some sort of operations, logistics, leading organizations, LO curriculum would be helpful in trying to manage all these different people and figuring out when all these different groups could possibly meet. I can buy that. Kate, how about for you? How did this experience shift or reinforce your perspective on the Darden first year?
I think the most immediate effect of it was it brought us so much closer to the first year class. We were able to really form a bond with them, be able to mentor them in academics, and really just being able to build up those relationships between classes at Darden was just so significant. And I think it also reinforces this notion of learning with and from your peers. It is so, I can't even count the number of times that I had been teaching an econ session and I would watch as a student who was attending the tutoring session would explain something and would make a comment, and I watched this chain reaction of other people who were attending the session also get it. And it's just such a great moment to see those light bulbs go off and to see that collective understanding, not only from me, but also from the other attendees. I thought was very special.
Well, one of the questions that we get from prospective students as they're entering Darden is like advice. What should I be thinking about now? What can I do in the summer before I start? When I first get there, what are some things that I should think about? I imagine the two of you, just given the work that you've done over these past few months, have a really interesting perspective on this. Kate, what would you encourage our listeners to think about as they approach Darden, maybe from an academic or even social perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a match to be made, not a prize to be won. It is very important to think about, how do you best learn? Are you someone who really thrives with discussion-oriented classes? Do you really enjoy being put in the driver's seat? Do you enjoy being challenged to solve difficult problems? Being able to approach this from an executive perspective is a hallmark of the Darden method. And I think if that appeals to you, this would be an amazing program for you. But I think that Darden is a rigorous program, as you mentioned earlier. It is a rigorous program, but the yield, the outcome from it and the return is so great. It is a wonderful process, and I'm very happy that I've had the opportunity to come here, and I would very much recommend it to anyone else to whom that speaks.
Johnny Mac, any words of advice? Anything specifically related to people's onboarding here at Darden, navigating the first year since you've been so close to it?
Yeah, I would definitely say don't stress anything in your summer before Darden, and then when you get here, everybody's going to have subjects and days that they feel really great, and other times that they feel a little bit lost, and that's totally normal. And I think that the one kind of constant is having your learning team and your other classmates there to assist you and for you to assist them, and really committing to that process, I think early on is critical. Particularly compared to law school, it's much more of a collaborative environment. And for me, learning team where I felt stronger on finance and accounting, and could help out, pay dividends both for my understanding on those topics, but then also being able to lean on my teammates, for some of the other classes that really didn't fully understand the benefit I was getting from that environment until probably the first round of exams were done, and I was like, wow, this really was the product of a team effort right up until you go in there and do the exam by yourself.
Yeah, one of the tricky things for Darden students is it all seems to happen very, very quickly, right? So you show up, and then the career thing has started, like from a exploration. Maybe you're going to company briefings, you're doing some networking, and then school, you got that going on. And by the way, you're new in a community, and so it's a lot of things all at the same time, and it does become about prioritization. I also think that there's this tricky thing in graduate education, and it applies in undergrad, but particularly in graduate education, where people feel like they have to have it all together all the time. And maybe they feel that pressure to, like, if I'm not doing everything just right, I'm somehow falling behind. And I wonder how your experience as tutor chairs any words of advice on those particular points? Because I do think that can be challenging for people in graduate school, which obviously a professional school setting. Johnny Mac, can I come to you first?
Yeah, sure. I think, that definitely fits. I think, in some ways, even you see more that even stronger in law school. And I think, at least at Darden, I think that tendency is pretty natural early on in the program, but I do think that boundaries break down pretty quickly. And, you're working so much with your section mates and your learning teammates that, your best efforts to portray yourself really, don't matter that much. People get to know the real you pretty quickly, which is pretty refreshing. And it means that, everybody knows the good and bad that's going on each week, and is kind of there to help each other out. So I think that it's natural to want to kill it early on, and I think that's a good thing for sure. But I think knowing that you've got this group around you who is going to support you and is going to get to know the real you is pretty cool.
Kate, any thoughts here on this point?
Patience, patience, patience. There are so many great and wonderful things going on at Darden, and it's easy to get caught up in all of the different clubs and classes and social events. Giving yourself a little bit of time to rest, to think, to reflect. And, it's like a fine wine. It takes time for it to be ready to enjoy. And I think that with a little bit of patience, a little bit of rest, and a lot of exploration and curiosity, that's my best recommendation.
Well, last question. Y'all are short timers here at the Darden School. You're almost graduating. May or so will be here before you know it. I wonder what you're looking forward to in the months ahead. Kate, any bucket list items for you as you round out your business school experience?
Gosh, bucket list items for business school. I think for me, I'm very excited to welcome the next generation of tutor chairs. We are going through that process right now of selecting the new chairs for next year. I will be very excited to welcome them to the program. And other than that, enjoying a beautiful spring, a beautiful summer in Charlottesville with the company of my classmates.
Johnny Mac, any items on your to-do list as graduation approaches?
Yeah, you'd think my to-do list would be relatively short with 4 years here, but it just seems to get longer and longer. We've got a bucket that we pick dinner places and wineries and breweries and stuff out of, and it seems to keep getting longer, which I think is a good thing about Charlottesville. I also think that this spring social scene at Darden is pretty fun. There's so many formal events that are going on. I know the horse races are coming up, which is always a blast. And then one other activity that's a lot of fun, that's kind of a team building event, is the Building Goodness in April group. They in the fall do a big auction for with all the sections. It's kind of silly and fun, and it's a good excuse to have some drinks and raise some money with your fellow classmates. And then in the spring, each section takes on a house in the Charlottesville area and helps with the assistance of some pro contractors to do a lot of repair work. So that's coming up here on April 2nd, I believe. And that's a ton of fun to get involved with and see your classmates kind of in a totally different setting from the normal Darden classroom or even the Darden party, to see folks out there with a hammer and a drill and getting after it, which is a lot of fun.
Well, I want to thank you both for your time here today and for coming on and talking more about the tutoring program. We've talked a lot about the different academic resources available to Darden students, particularly in their first year. We talk about things that open up pre-matriculation, right? There's massive open online courses that Luann Lynch has done that students get access to. There's Be Ready as well, which Mark Lipson has developed. In addition, there's Darden Before Darden, which comes up from time to time here on the podcast. And of course, lots and lots of support once students get started, right? So we talked about the learning team. It's very much a part of the first year journey through the core curriculum. The section dynamic, lots of section pride typically here on the podcast, call out some mascots and colors, and even some reference to cheers and general section personality, which is fun to hear. And of course, it was great to talk about the tutoring program because it's the one thing that we haven't been able to touch on yet. So I so appreciate the two of you coming on here talking about all the work that you've been doing with the first year students over these past months. And congratulations on handing off the torch, so to speak. I guess that's in process to the next tutor chairs. We'll have to get them on the podcast. But Kate, Johnny Mac, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks for having us, Brett.
And that was my interview with Kate Shadlock and Johnny Mac Yates, two second-year students in our full-time MBA class of 2022 and chairs of the tutoring program here at the Darden School of Business. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, at virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.